Hello and welcome to today's math lesson. So first of all, guys, can we all turn to wave and say a big hello to our friends on camera? Hello. Hello. And we'll begin by doing our meditation sequence. So I will sit down, take 2 fingers, find our heart center, left hand on our laps and close our eyes. And when you're ready, guys, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. And next we'll do our stretch sequence. So let's stand up and push in our chairs. And we can begin by stretching up high to the sky. High as we can. And then let's go down low, touch our toes. And now, back up high one more time. And this time, can we go tippy-toe high? And while we're there, let's have a wave side to side. And then back down to touch our toes. And then stand up straight, hands on hips, and let's have a wiggle side to side. Nice wiggle side to side. Stop. Now, another wiggle side to side. Stop. Forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, and stop. And now we'll go round and round. Round and round. And stop. And then we'll go back the other way. Round and round the other way. And stop. And to finish, we will do 5 claps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent, guys. Have a seat. So today in math class, we're going to begin learning about a completely new topic. And the name of the new topic, guys, decimals. So can we all say together, decimals? Now, does anybody ever heard of decimals before? Do we know what decimals are? That's okay, because today we're learning about them for the first time. So what we'll do, we'll write the word decimals on the board. D, E, C, I, M, A, L, S. So all together, guys, decimals. Yes. Now what decimals mean is they're similar to fractions. They also mean part of a whole. Remember when fractions were represented as part of a whole, Well, we can use decimals in the same way, but all it means is that they're displayed and written in a different way. So decimals can also mean part, P-A-R-T, of a whole. So altogether, guys, decimals, part of a whole. Now, I'll show you what I mean. What I'll do first, I'll use an example that we've already learned. I'll use a fraction, and then I'll show how we can translate the fraction into the decimal equivalent. So what we need is a circle. Okay, guys, so now if I write the fraction can anybody remember what that is as a fraction? 1 over 10, okay? So how many parts to the circle do I need? 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, and then one more line, 10. Okay, now how many parts do I need to put into colour? 1, correct. I only need 1 because it's 1 over 10. Okay, that's our fraction 1 over 10. Now I'm going to show you how to write this amount as a decimal. 0.1. Okay? 0.1. Because it's 0, because it's not whole. If it was whole, the 1 would be here. And what the 0.1 represents is 1 part of the whole. Now, does anybody know what this is called here? In English, we would say full stop. But in math, we don't call it a full stop. Any ideas? I'll give you a clue. Decimal, this is called a decimal point. Okay? When we use this symbol in math, it's what we call a decimal point. So you can see how 1 over 10 is represented as a decimal 0.1. Now let's do it one stage further. Let's go from 1 over 10. Let's go to, what's the next highest number? 1, 2. Let's do 2 over 10. So now we need to colour in another circle, another part of the circle. So it's fraction 2 over 10. So all we need to do now is remove the 1 from our decimal, replace it with 2. So now the decimal is 0.2. And we carry on that way so that each part of the fraction represents a number in our decimal. For example, who can tell me what will the decimal point be now? Now that we've got 5 over 10, 0.5. Excellent. Well done, guys. Well understood. All we need to do is that every part of the fraction represents 1 point after the 0. So here we have 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, what happens if we colour in every single part of the fraction? So as a fraction, we now know it's 10 over 10. It's a whole. Does anybody want to guess what will we do with our decimal? 1.0. Excellent. You see, because it becomes a whole, so we would then say 1.0. Because it's a whole, the 1 now moves to the left-hand side. 1 represents the whole, 0.0. Guys, that was excellent and very well worked out, so well done. So that was a brief introduction to decimals and how we can relate them to fractions. We'll use something that students have already learned, the fractions, and then we can relate it to how to work it into decimals. And my students are learning very well. And what we've got now is a PowerPoint presentation for our students to observe, listen to, and also practice speaking of the different way we can look at decimals. So let's turn to look at the TV screen, please, guys. So now let's take a look at our PowerPoint presentation about decimals. Introduction. Yes. And as we learned earlier, one of the best ways to learn about decimals is to take our knowledge of fractions and then turn them into a decimal. So here we can see the different parts of the circle. Who can remember what this is as a fraction? 1/4, yes. And this is represented as a decimal 0.25. Yes, 1/4. But then, if we add another part to our fraction, we have 1/2, which is half. So as a decimal, it's represented as 0.5. And then, 3 parts to our circle, 3/4. As a decimal, it's represented as 0.75. Yes. And then finally, as we learned earlier, when we have a whole, as a decimal, 1.0. So you can see how we can relate the decimal to the fraction equivalent every time. And especially when we're learning about decimals, it's a good way to use the fractions to find out. 1 whole is divided into 10 equal parts. So as a fraction, this is represented as 1/10. Correct. Each part is 1/10 of the whole. As a fraction, we write it as 1/10. And then, to work out the decimal equivalent, as a decimal, we write it as 0.1. Okay? So understand the relationship. Let's go back one. 1/10 as a fraction, but then as a decimal, 0.1. So notice how the point and the 1 come after the 0 until it's a whole. Next one. As a decimal, we write this as 0.2. See? Because how many parts of our circle now are coloured? 2. So now the 1 becomes a 2. The decimal has changed from 0.1 to 0.2. Each time we colour another part, we add another number after the decimal point. As a decimal, we write this as 0.3. How many parts of our circle are coloured? 3. So this time it's 0.3. 0.2, 2 parts coloured. 0.3, 3 parts coloured. So understand the relationship between a fraction and the decimal. We just write it and display it in a different way. Now, what is this decimal? It's a different shape, but it's exactly the same. Perfect. You see, even though it's not a circle, it's a square or a rectangle, we still do the same calculation. We ask ourselves, how many parts are coloured? How many parts are coloured? 5. So our decimal, as a decimal, we write this as 0.5. Well done, guys. Well worked out. And how about this? You know the fraction. As a fraction, it's 7 over 10. 0.7. Perfect. Notice how you do it. We just put the 0 first and then point and the number of parts. 0.7. As a decimal, we write this as 0.7. Notice always a 0 until the circle or the shape is complete. So, one more question. What is this decimal? Now notice the circle is full. 1.0. Excellent. You see, now the circle is full. So now we don't say 0.2, 0.5, 0.8. This number comes before 1.0 because it's a whole. A whole represented as a decimal is 1.0. As a decimal, we write this as 1.0. Try to remember that. It's important. A whole as a decimal, 1.0. So let's practice them one more time. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, correct, 0.5, 0.7. Notice it's always the 0 first until the shape is full of colour. But then, once the shape is full, 1.0. When we have a full circle of colour or any shape, the 1 comes before the decimal point. 1.0. Any questions, guys? Okay, that was excellent. Very well done. Welcome back to class. We hope your students enjoyed the PowerPoint presentation about decimals and how we can begin to understand how to write and display our own decimals. And when working out decimals for the first time, it's important to think of them as fractions so that we can equate what we've already learned as a fraction and then represent them as a decimal with the data. And we've got an exercise coming up soon. But first of all, guys, time for our stretch sequence. So let's stand up and push in our chairs. And for this stretch sequence, we'll have a game of Teacher Says. So listen carefully, guys. If Teacher says, we can do. If Teacher doesn't say, don't do. So, hands in the air. Teacher says, hands down. Teacher says, hands in the air. Hands down. Hands in the air. Teacher says, hands down. Teacher says, turn around. Teacher says, back the other way. And back the other way. Excellent, guys. Teacher says, jogging on the spot. Stop. Teacher says, stop. Jogging on the spot. Teacher says, jogging on the spot. Teacher says, quickly. Teacher says, stop. Teacher says, arms in the air. Teacher says, arms on head. Teacher says, touch your shoulders. Hands on hips. Teacher says, arms in the air. Arms down. Teacher says, arms down. Teacher says, time to go into a little ball. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump. Teacher says, jump. Excellent, guys. And teacher says, have a sit down. And teacher says, it's now time for us to do a classroom activity so that we can complete a circle together by doing a representation of the decimal point each time. So what we need first is we need a big circle. Okay, guys, so now we have our circle. Now, when dealing in decimals on a very basic level, we will always be looking in parts of 10. So what we're going to do for this exercise is divide our circle into 10 parts. 2, 4, 6, 8, and we need one more line for 10. Okay, guys, so let's count the parts of the circle together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to draw different parts of the circle each time. I'm going to colour them in, and then I'm going to invite a student to come forward and work out how many parts of the circle are coloured and how to write it as a decimal. So first of all, we'll start with a low number. So now, how many parts of our circle are coloured in? 1. So if this was a fraction, it would be 1 over 10. But now, what I want is a student to come forward and show what this represents as a decimal. So Lakgao, can you come forward, please, and show this represented as a decimal? 0.1. Perfect. As we can see, guys, how many parts to our circle are coloured in? 1. So that is represented by 0.1 on our decimal chart. So one more time, guys, all together, 0.1. Lakgao, that's brilliant. High five and a big round of applause for Lakgao, please, guys. And what we can do, we can carry this on and we'll colour in more parts of our circle and see if our students can correctly represent them as a decimal. So next student, but first of all, I'll clean the board. Okay, so now how many parts of our circle are coloured in? 2, correct. So now I would like Net to come forward and write the correct amount of this circle as a decimal. So Net, come and join me at the front. Excellent. And Net, you can stand there. So how many parts of our circle are coloured in, guys? 2. So 0.2, exactly. 0.2. Excellent, Net. So can you say 0.2? So you can see how 2 parts of our circle coloured in is represented as the decimal 0.2. Net, that was very well done. High five and a big round of applause for Net. So teachers, you can see the activity that we're doing in our classroom now. You can pause the video and do the same activity with your own students. And what we're looking to do is go one stage higher every time until we've got a full circle, so that we can represent the full circle as 1.0. So remember to use a different student for each different decimal. And we're going to carry on playing here now. But first of all, I'll clean the board. And now we'll have another part coloured in. And now it's the turn of Pangpon to show me how to write this as a decimal. So Pangpon, come and join me at the front. So this time, guys, how many parts of our circle coloured? 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. So how do we write this as a decimal? 0.3. Excellent, guys. So Pangpon, we've got 0, then our decimal point, and then 3. Perfect. Because we've got 1, 2, 3. So Pangpon, can you say 0.3 is our decimal of this part of the circle? Pangpon, that was excellent. High five and a big round of applause for Pangpon. Okay, and we'll keep going until we've got a full circle. And now it's the turn of Pakbung. Pakbung, come and show me you understand how to write this decimal. This time, how many parts of our circle, guys? 4. So, what will our decimal look like, Pakbung? 0.4. Correct. You see, for each part of the circle that we colour, we just go 1 up behind the decimal point. 0.4. So Pakbung, can you say? 0.4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pakbung, that was excellent. High five and a big round of applause for Pakbung, guys. Okay, time for one more part to be coloured. But now, it's not 0.4 anymore. Who can tell me what the next decimal is? And I think Pat can tell us. So Pat, come and join me at the front. So this time, we're not 0.4. What's our next decimal, Pat? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Pat, can you write this as a decimal? Correct. Excellent, Pat. 0.5. Excellent. So when we get to 0.5, notice, guys, how many parts are coloured in of our circle? 5 parts. How many parts are still in white? 5, because 0.5 is exactly half. If I have a glass of water and it's 0.5 full, that means it's half full. 0.5 represents half. And we've got 5 in blue and 5 in white. Pat, that was brilliant. High five and a big round of applause for Pat, please, guys. Okay, so we're getting there. Time for our next fraction. We will add another segment coloured to our circle. And now, Prel, can you tell me the decimal of 6 parts of our circle being coloured? So now, how many parts are coloured? 6. So we say 0.6. Excellent. So Prel, can you show us what 0.6 looks like? Correct. 0.6. Perfect. Every time our number will come after the decimal point because the number is not yet whole. So can you say, Prel?
0.6.
Perfect. High five. Big round of applause for Prel, please, guys. And now we'll add another segment. And who can tell me what this looks like as a decimal number? Nadia, come and join me at the front. And Nadia, if you can stand there, please. This time, how many parts of our circle are coloured? 7. So Nadia, 0.7. By now, we should be getting the hang of it. Each time, we just go up one number. 0.7. Perfect. Nadia, can you say? 0.7 is right. High five and a big round of applause for Nadia, guys. Okay, next part. We're not at 0.7 anymore. And maybe Dan can tell us what the next decimal will look like. So Dan, come and join me at the front. What is it now, Dan?
0.8.
Perfect. And can you show me what that looks like, please? 0 point, always important, the decimal point. 8. Perfect. So one more time, can we say 0.8? Dan, that was perfect. High five and a big round of applause for Dan, please, guys. So now the circle is almost full, especially when I add one more part that's coloured in. And we will go from 0.8. Well, what will we go to? Maybe Chu can tell us. Because now, Chu, it's your turn to draw the decimal number. So remember, we were at 0.8. We had one more part. So what are we at now? 0.9. 0.9 is correct. So Chu, can you write 0.9? 0. Perfect. And then our decimal point. Okay, so we've got, guys, 0.9. Can you say, Chu? 0.9. And you can see the 9 parts of our circle that are coloured. That's okay? Not yet? That's okay. High five and a big round of applause for Chu. Okay, so now I'm about to do what Chu was going to do. We've got 0.9, but who can remember what happens when... Perfect, yes. You see, we don't go to 0.10 incorrect. Once we've got 10, that means we've got the whole as a decimal. So what we need to do, 1.0, that means whole. If we have 1.0 of something, it means it's full. If I have 1.0 of a cake, it means I have the full cake. If I have 1.0 of a glass of orange juice, it means the glass is full. 1.0 as a decimal means full. And as you can see, it's represented by our full circle. So guys, that was brilliant. Very well done. And now it's time for our worksheet part of the lesson. So teachers, make sure every student in your classroom gets their own worksheet. And what they need to do today is they need to design their circles based on the decimal that they are given for each question. So the first thing to know, guys, every circle should be broken up into 10 parts. Then judging by your decimal number, you need to look to see how many parts of your circle you need to colour in. And teachers, what we can do is we can monitor the classroom, and if our students need any help, we can help them and possibly also draw on a board to assist them further. But what's the first thing to do, guys? Write your names on top. So let go, this one's for you. And give our students around 12 to 15 minutes for this because we want them to colour into the correct parts to the circle. So bank one for you. Here's yours.
Thank you.
Down, this one's for you.
Thank you.
Chu, here's yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nadia, for you. You're welcome. Pat, here's yours. Backbone for you. And net for you. You're welcome. So names on top first, guys. And then using the knowledge you've learned about decimals, particularly with our board exercise, decide how many parts of your circle need to be coloured in based on the number after the decimal point. So every circle into 10 parts. Then how many parts do you need to colour? For 0.3, how many parts will you colour? 0.3, how many? 3 parts, yes. Concentrate on the number after the decimal point. So each circle has 10 parts. Then, depending on your decimal number, how many parts will you colour? And if you need any help, guys, let me know. But I think you understand very well already. Judging by the PowerPoint and the board exercise, you understand about decimals. The circle needs to be in 10 parts. Your circles need to be in 10 parts, guys. That's what I explained earlier. How many parts to the circle? 10. So no need to rush. Better to be correct than be quick. Not you see. The circle has to be in 10 parts. For decimals, we're looking at parts of 10. So your circle into 10 parts. Okay. That's it, Nadia. Well done. 10 equal parts. Welcome back to class. We hope your students enjoyed the worksheet exercise where they had to demonstrate their understanding of decimals by drawing the correct amount of coloured parts in each of the circles. My students here all did an excellent job, so very well done, guys. And that's all we've got time for today, so we hope you've enjoyed the lesson and now understand more about decimals and how they represent parts of a whole. The important thing to remember is when it's less than whole, the number comes after the decimal point. But then once we reach a whole, we'll represent the number before the decimal point as 1.0. And we'll see you again soon for the next lesson. So can we turn to wave and say goodbye, guys? Goodbye. Bye-bye. See you again soon.